Hello, welcome to the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page. We are live talking the NFL Scouting Combine. The Big D ready to run a 40 bench press, maybe a little 3-cone drill tonight. Before I tell you about the NFL Scouting Combine, please subscribe, like, and share the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page. We can only see this screen, but see all the videos and episodes of the Big D Podcast. Speaking of the Big D Podcast, check us out on Spotify and Apple. So every year, the NFL Scouting Combine convenes in Indianapolis, and on-field drills will start them all. So I figured it was a perfect chance to talk about the combine, talk about guys I wish will compete, who will be competing, and maybe potential deals, maybe potential signs that could take place, maybe potential rumors. Could somebody be franchised? Could somebody be franchised and trade? But the first question everybody will ask is, what drills are there for football players at the combine? Well, there's the bench press, so check out bench press where there's two guys and lift 225 pounds as many times as possible. 40-yard dash, 3-cone drill, broad jump, high jump, all kinds of drills. Maybe a 10-yard shuttle, 60-yard shuttle, and then on-field positional drills where coaches will walk out guys. Like if you're an offensive lineman, they'll look at hip movement, or a defensive lineman will look at that initial burst, or maybe strength for your defensive tackle, or quarterback. Figure out, can you throw from under center, get out of the pocket, throw that go route, throw that 40-yard route from one hatch to another. And yes, the combine is important, but is it really the end-all to looking at football players? No, because the NFL draft is not a perfect science. If the NFL draft would have been a perfect science, Tom Brady's not in the 6th round. Joe Montana's not in the 3rd round. Brock Purdy's not Mr. Irrelevant. Those guys would have been drafted a lot earlier. Puka's not in the 5th round. Cooper Kupp's not in the mid-rounds. And also, you see, speaking of Puka Nacua, last year, Puka Nacua ran a 4.57 40-yard dash. But yet, he set all kinds of rookie receiving records last year. Cooper Kupp didn't run a great 40-yard dash time several years ago. And he darn near went over the 2,000-yard mark when the Rams won the Super Bowl a few years ago. So, they're all some guys who don't need a great 40-yard dash time. If you're great off the line, like Wes Walker wouldn't have never run a great 40-yard dash, but nobody could beat him in that 10 yards. Nobody could beat Cooper Kupp. Nobody could beat Puka Nacua. So while those guys don't have the 40-yard dash speed, seemingly a Puka, a Kupp, or Walker could be great in that 10 yards. So sometimes you see with an offensive or defensive lineman, the 40-yard dash time is irrelevant, but that 10-yard push is essential because how often are you going to see an offensive or defensive lineman run 40 yards? Once a season? So that 10-yard push, because if I know Aaron Donald's going to be harassing my quarterback within 10 yards, within 10 yards, I'm in trouble. Or if I know Tomlin Smith is so quick, my quarterback's going to have time to throw the ball, or won't be able to run the ball. So, there for an offensive or defensive lineman, nobody cares about the 40-yard dash time. It helps if you have great speed. But speed's not the end all. Jerry Rice, what, a 4.58, 4.59, and yet nobody could cover him. Not even Deion Sanders. So, and in some ways, the bench points can be a little overrated too. Because you look at strength, like, I'm not sure Kevin Durant could have done one rep at 225 pounds. But yet, that doesn't mean he's a bad basketball player. Because these guys might not. Excuse me. These guys might not have spent time in the weight room because they're college kids. Sometimes these guys put on weight before the combine or before an NFL training camp. So the bench press can be a little overrated, but still offers coaches, scouts, general managers a chance to see guys in an environment. Plus teams can have certain time with certain prospects. So a Caleb Williams this year could spend 15 minutes with the Chicago Bears, the Washington Commanders. Drake May or Jane Daniels can spend times with teams, get to know him, what he knows, football etiquette. Okay, so in many ways, that time might be more important than seeing a quarterback walk out or quarterback run a 40-yard dash, whatever. And in terms, glad I mentioned quarterbacks because I think quarterbacks will be a point of emphasis not just in Indianapolis but until draft night in Detroit, because this draft could make history with quarterbacks. But at least three, it could go quarterback, and then I would think at least one, if not two, maybe three other quarterbacks going. I would look at these 6 potential first-round quarterbacks in two groups of 3. They're the big 3, and then 4, 5, and 6. Obviously, Caleb Williams will be the one-on-one. It's not a question of if Caleb Williams is the one-on-one. It's a question of whether the Bears repeat trading the one-on-one like they did last year and Bryce Young for a bevy of picks and players, or end up keeping Caleb Williams. Now, obviously, the question is, if the Bears keep Caleb Williams, Chicago's getting rid of Justin Fields because you can't have 2 quarterbacks on the roster. The old saying is, you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterback. So the question with the Bears is, do they keep Fields and trade Caleb Williams, or trade Fields and keep Caleb Williams? I think the Bears are going to keep Caleb Williams and trade Justin Fields. One, Justin Fields has been, you could argue, a below-average quarterback. I mean, he's played 3 years with the Bears, been injured, been inconsistent, particularly late in games. Yeah, Justin Fields will have his moments, but those moments are few and far between. And while Chicago Bears fans are still saying he's got all kinds of potential, he's got all kinds of potential. He can do this, he can do this. Justin Fields is not putting it together for 16 games. And yes, the coaching staff there is not, I mean, he's not been in a great situation. I mean, you won't believe this. In an era where teams are throwing the ball all over the field, the Bears still don't have a 4,000-yard passer. Not one. Nobody has thrown for 4,000 yards in a season for. I mean, and I feel like the Bears just ignore quarterbacks. Like Chicago's still an old school franchise. Think of the '85 Bears. I mean, the McCluskeys are what one of the poorest owners. So yeah, Chicago might have a great fan base, but the Bears don't have a history developing quarterbacks. You look at a team like the Green Bay Packers. I mean, Brett Favre for 15 years. Aaron Rodgers for 15 years. Brett Favre, Hall of Fame quarterback. Aaron Rodgers, Hall of Fame quarterback. And Jordan Love looks like the next great Packer quarterback. And you look at Week 18 last year, what Justin Fields struggled, Jordan Love made big throws and led the Packers to a win in the final NFC playoff spot. I mean, I know people saying, "What would the Bears do?" I know what the Packers do. Take Justin Fields and take Caleb Williams because you take the best quarterback in the draft. I mean, simple. Everybody's saying the Jags aren't going to take Trevor Lawrence in 2021. Well, Trevor Lawrence the best quarterback prospect in the draft. Why wouldn't you take him? Andrew Luck in 2012. Take the quarterback. It's like the quarterback. Because if the Bears keep Justin Fields, they're going to owe him a huge amount of money because 5th-year option and then probably a big contract off of that. So that's another 40 or 50 million. Why not take care of Williams, reset the cap, put that 5th-year option way into the distance, and see, you know what you have in Justin Fields. You don't know what Caleb Williams could be. Could he be Pat Mahomes? Could it be Aaron Rodgers? It makes a lot of sense. I think you take Caleb Williams and put him in the best spot because Chicago also goes into this draft with the number 9 pick. So in this draft, particularly early with so many great offensive players, that could be an offensive lineman or another wide receiver. So I think the Bears have to take Caleb Williams. And then if and when Caleb Williams goes 1-1, the question is who goes second? Is it LSU's Jayden Daniels or North Carolina's Drake May? Of course, Jayden Daniels coming off an historic year for the Bayou Bengals, won the Heisman, set all kinds of records. I mean, that guy, Jayden Daniels, dual threat option. But there are question marks I have with Jayden Daniels, with Daniels. He's 6'4", but he's not an overly thick 6'4". He's skinny. He's 210. So, but to me, Jayden Daniels doesn't look any heavier than me. So you wonder how, especially with Daniels being a dual threat run pass quarterback, can he handle the workload? Because everybody says about Lamar Jackson, he's freakishly talented. But could he play a 16, now 17 game season? Can Jayden Daniels last and play 17 game seasons with that run first style? Because we saw this year with the Colts. Anthony Richardson hurt multiple times. One with the concussion, one with the shoulder. So you want plus Jane Dan is going to be 24 in December. So as he hit his peak, we've seen some of these guys, particularly the ones playing 5, 6 years college football, not have the great peak. I mean, he played at Arizona State. I mean, this year at LSU, threw for 3,800 yards, ran for 1,100 yards. I mean, he averaged 8.5 yards a carry. That's remarkable. This guy threw for 12,000 yards in college. So honestly, I'm hearing more and more that Jane Daniels could be the number 2 overall pick. But I think North Carolina's Drake May has got a very compelling case for being the number 2 pick in this draft. He's 6'4", 229, huge arm, maybe even bigger upside than Caleb Williams, maybe even the biggest upside of any quarterback in this draft. I mean, if you look at Drake May in 2022, his tape was, oof. This year, not quite as great. Completion percentage dropped. The passing numbers dropped a little bit. But to me, I look at North Carolina this year. I don't think the Tar Heels possess the same team. It seemed like Drake May missed Josh Downs a little bit. And we all love Mac Brown as head coach. I don't think that offense was sophisticated enough. No, a la what happened with Justin Herbert at Oregon. In fact, to me, I think Drake May's got a lot of Justin Herbert in him. Similar size, similar arm strength, both extremely mobile. I mean, Drake May ran for 1,200 plus yards in college, so this guy can move. While he might not be Jane Daniels, I think he could definitely move. And, he's 6'4", 230, but I think Drake May could add another 10, 12 pounds and still be fairly athletic. Plus, in many ways, I think Drake May's got more potential than Jane Daniels. He's only 21, so Drake May still got more development. Probably, I mean, could add another 10, 15 pounds in the weight room. And I think if you put him with the right head coach, right weapons, this guy's got a chance to be really good. Remember Justin Herbert coming out of Oregon, the third quarterback pick in 2020. Josh Allen was what, the seventh pick? I think Drake May has got all kinds of potential. I mean, we all love quarterbacks with huge arms, and I think Drake May could be this year's quarterback. Like last year, C.J. Stroud was the second quarterback pick, and then put together one of the greatest rookie seasons we've ever seen. Maybe Drake May is this year's C.J. Stroud. And then the other three quarterbacks, J.J. McCarthy from Michigan, Bo Nix from Oregon, and Michael Penix from Washington. Obviously, with J.J. McCarthy, we saw what he did at Michigan this year, leading the Wolverines to a national championship. And I know what everybody will say about J.J. McCarthy. Well, he, quote-unquote, didn't have to make that many big plays in the course of a game. I mean, we saw famously in the second half against Penn State, Michigan didn't even attempt to throw the ball. Wolverines just ran the ball in the second half. But while you look at J.J. McCarthy's numbers and think, well, nothing stands out at you. His completion percentage increased every year. Made 22 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. And I also look at, the offense he ran. Michigan didn't ask him to throw the ball 45, 50 times a game. If you look at J.J. McCarthy's game log this year, he threw 30, 25, 13, 21, 16, 20, 17, 27, 37, 8, 23, 20, 30, 27, and 18. So he didn't throw the ball more than 37 times in every game. Any game. But J.J. McCarthy was super efficient and won a lot of games for Michigan, leading the Wolverines to an national championship. And there were some big throws. Big throw against Ohio State. Couple big throws against Alabama. A big-time run in the national championship game against Washington. And I feel like J.J. McCarthy's got more untapped potential. He's 6'3" to 6'3". He's only 20. I think JJ McCarthy's only 21, so he's got all kinds of potential. And while you may think, well, he didn't throw the ball much in college, that doesn't necessarily mean he'll be bad in the NFL. Because he played under Jim Harbaugh, and I don't think there's a tougher head coach to play for. I mean, it'd be Jim Harbaugh or Nick Saban. And I mean, Harbaugh not only coached, but he played quarterback at Michigan, played and coached in the NFL. So this guy knows quarterbacks. And you look this year, you teams are going to need quarterbacks. While J.J. McCarthy might not be a top 5 pick, back half of the top 10, maybe early teams. I mean, Denver. I mean, if and when the Broncos get rid of Russell Wilson, I mean, you look at if there's an NFL comp to Jim Harbaugh, Sean Payton is that guy because played quarterback at Eastern Illinois. We know what he's done with quarterbacks, with Drew Brees especially. J.J. McCarthy has got all kinds of potential. Plus, Sean Payton can pick his guy instead of inheriting Russell Wilson. Sean Payton can pick the quarterback for the next 10, 12 years. And then the Pac-12 quarterbacks, Bo Nix and Michael Penix. Obviously, Bo Nix was uber efficient his 2 years at Oregon. Again, I mean, while everybody will look at, well, he made easy throws, he wasn't under duress, Oregon's offensive line was great. I'd argue what helped Bo Nix was, one, he didn't have to play in Auburn anymore. Two, I think he played for a team that believed in him. We saw the good from Bo Nix, and maybe playing, 60 some odd college teams helped Bo Nix because I think we saw the best of him at Oregon. Now, Bo Nix doesn't offer the same upside as some of these quarterbacks, but Bo's floor is fairly solid. I mean, he's 20, just turned 24 3 days ago. So I do worry about the age. Bo Nix is not going to be, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert talent-wise. But could he be Derek Carr? I mean, I think he's got a lot of Derek Carr coming out of college, Good enough arm, good enough mobility, super smart, can run, throw, need be. If you look at middle late one, I think Bo Nix makes a lot of sense. For for these teams, particularly teams looking at getting that fifth-year option, because if I'm going to draft a quarterback from like 20 onwards, I'd rather just get him in the late first round because I get that fifth-year option. So Bo Nix makes a lot of sense. I don't know for Pittsburgh, but for one of these teams needed a quarterback. I mean, could a team thinking? I mean, I don't know if the Seahawks would because I don't know if he's much different than Geno Smith. Maybe a team like the Vikings could make a run at Bo Nix. I think Minnesota's at 11, so would the Vikings potentially make a drop back and get Bo Nix later in the draft? Could one of these teams, maybe the Saints even, draft Bo Nix in the team? So we'll see about that. And then Michael Penix from Washington. I mean, I'm intrigued by Penix because I don't think there's a better deep ball throw in the draft. I mean, what Penix did at Washington was stupendous. A lot of people think, myself included, think he should have won the Heisman. I mean, you go 14-1 in Washington, beat Bo Nix and the Ducks twice, beat Texas in New Orleans. But the big question with Michael Penix is, will he stay healthy? Because he dealt with shoulder and knee injuries in college. And you don't know how long he'll play because this is the question that Tua faced coming out of Alabama. He dealt with injuries in college. Penix has dealt with major knee and shoulder injuries in college. So I think Penix, if he were healthy and more that dual threat guy from Indiana, would be a first round pick no matter what. But because the injury risk and the lack of running, could Penix sneak into the second round? I don't know. I mean, I think Penix is a first round quarterback. Well, maybe not a scramble guy, more that traditional pocket passer. I think could somehow sneak into the first round. I mean, a good week this week in Indianapolis, and Penix all of a sudden could sneak into the first round. And then quarterbacks, how about wide receivers? I think we all like wide receivers, right? And there were three big wide receivers in this draft. Marvin Harrison Jr. from the Ohio State, Rome Odunze from Washington, and Malik Nabers from LSU. Obviously, Marvin Harrison's the number one wide receiver in this draft. I think the question is, do the Arizona Cardinals take him at 4 or somebody else? Because Marvin Harrison's not getting out of the top 5. He's that good. There are 3 or 4 can't miss wide receivers, or who I call can't bust wide receivers. Calvin Johnson, Julio Jones, Jamal Chase, and Marvin Harrison. 0% chance these guys will bust. Marvin Harrison's that good. Marvin Harrison Sr. is a Hall of Fame wide receiver with Peyton Manning and the Indianapolis Colts. And I think Junior might be better, bigger, stronger. Plus, she's got the DNA, great route running ability, can make unbelievable catches despite being double, triple team every single game. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is unbelievable. I mean, I compare him with Megatron. I don't know how you defend him. Be honest. I mean, I mentioned last week, I think the only 2 wide receivers I would consider taking, even considering taking in Dynasty over Harrison. And those guys are Justin Jefferson and Jamal Chase. That's how good Marvin Harrison Jr. is. And I mean, if he ends up in Arizona, I think Kyle Murray will fall in love with this kid. And then Roma Duse and Malik Neighbors. I mean, those guys are both great. Roma Duse made big plays for Washington this year. And of course, Malik Neighbors from LSU. Of course, wide receiver U. It's like DBU, running back U. LSU and Ohio State are wide receiver U. So, of course, we mentioned a Buckeye and a Bayou Bengal in this draft. I think Malik Neighbors and Roma Duse will both be top 10 picks. So, potentially 3 quarterbacks and 3 wide receivers in the top 10. Oof. And I mean, there could be teams, I mean, maybe 5 with the Chargers, the Giants, Tennessee, the Bears at 9, maybe the Jets at 10, but I think all 3 of the top wide receivers will be gone this year. And then, speaking of quarterbacks, will any quarterback sign or get closer to signing a big time contract extension? Obviously, Dak Prescott's the big guy because he's the quarterback for America's team. And while Dak has not historically been great in the playoffs, coming off a strong 2023 regular season, but there's one big number. 59 and a half. Dak Prescott's cap hit is 59.5 million. Only the Sean will since $64 million cap hit is high. So Dak is going into his free agent year. Can't be franchised because of the nature of the contract. So I think the question for the Cowboys, I don't know if I would give Dak a record deal, but the Cowboys, in all likelihood, will give Dak an extension. Now, the question is, could Dallas give Dak an extension without breaking the bank this year? Because, I mean, could Dak make $50 million? Could Dak make $60 million? If Dak takes $50 million, does that mean the Cowboys can't make a move at anybody else? Because is Dak Prescott in the same ballpark as Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Lamar? No. I think Dak Prescott's in that 14, 15, 16 range, but yet he could be paid like a top 4 or 5 quarterback in the game. And then secondly, does this mean the Cowboys aren't as aggressive in free agency? Does that mean the Cowboys can't make a move for another wide receiver? Maybe keeping Tony Pollard. Maybe keeping guys on defense. Who's Stephon Gilmore. Some of those defensive linemen. Maybe the Cowboys can't re-sign Tyron Smith. But it's a fascinating decision because Jerry Jones loves paying his guys top money. I mean, gave Ezekiel way too much money. Gave Dak a big-time contract a few years ago. CeeDee Lamb's due for a big deal. Micah Parsons could be next to get a big deal on Big D. What will the Cowboys do? Because eventually there's not going to be enough pie for everybody. Even if the cap goes up $80 million. Everybody's going to want a bigger piece of that pie. And then the next one is Tua. And I know what you're thinking. Well, why would the Dolphins give Tua a big-time deal? Well, Tua's finally played a full year last year. He's playing on the 5th-year option this year at $23.1 million. So, I don't know if Tua's in that Mahomes, Lamar, Herbert, Burrow shelf of prices, but the way quarterbacks are getting paid now, could Tua end up making 40, 50 million? Potentially, but I mean, no state income tax in Texas. Obviously, no state income tax in Florida, and Miami's got big time issues because Christian Wilkins is a potential free agent. Connor Williams, Robert Hunt on the offensive line could both become free agents. So the Dolphins are eventually going to have issues, with those guys. With potentially one of them sign a big deal and then the other one's franchise. Just what are the Dolphins going to do? Of course, Miami could decide, what, let's see what Tua does this year and then give him a big deal, but then you risk losing him for nothing. So I think Miami will end up signing Tua, but that's a real interesting question what happens there. And then also, franchise deals because all the GMs are there. All the GMs, agents, coaches, scouts, and potential interested players could be there in Indianapolis. So could there be some franchise deals? Because we already heard the Bengals put the franchise tag on T. Higgins. No, I was hoping T. Higgins could create the Clemson Jaguars in Duval County. That's not happening. But then, who else could go? For the Chiefs were strongly considering, if not, will place the franchise tag on L'Jarius Sneed. And it's interesting because you don't see cornerbacks given franchise tags. I think Champ Bailey got one 20 years ago, but you don't see franchise tags. And the Chiefs have done a great job drafting cornerbacks. You wonder, especially coming off a less than stellar Super Bowl, maybe you let him go. But obviously, Kansas City doesn't want to lose one of the NFL's best young corners. But with Sneed and T. Higgins, I'm not saying this will happen. But could this be the old NBA adage, sign and trade? Or maybe in this case, trade and sign? Because you trade him, and then somebody gives him a big deal. So maybe a team would pony up picks and money for Sneed and or Higgins. So I think there's a potential. You could see one of both guys move, particularly Sneed, because Kansas City will want to resign Chris Jones, plus potentially add Mahomes another weapon, especially now with no MVS there. And no, last but not least, how about how about 40-yard dashes? Everybody loves speed. We all want to be fast. We wish we could run a great 40-yard dash, a great 100-meter dash. Drive fast cars. How about some fast 40-yard dash times? Number 3, CJ2K 2008 4.24. And for a long time, he was the gold standard of 40-yard dashes. Nobody was faster than CJ2K. Number 2, Lon Bonds, just from 2022, 4.23. Fastest time ever by a defender in what, 20 years? I mean, 4.23. And you would think that's number one. Nope. How about John Ross, 2017? I mean, 4.22 by John Ross. That's fast. I mean, I didn't think anybody could break CJ2K's record, and then John Ross ended up being a top 10 pick by the Cincinnati Bengals. The old saying, speed kills, maybe in this case. And of course, John Ross dealt with a ton of injuries in the NFL never lived up to being a Mr. 40-yard dash. I don't know if you'd rather be Mr. 40-yard dash or Mr. Irrelevant like Brock Purdy, but unfortunately for us, couldn't live up to being a top pick in the draft. But who will be the fastest guy this year? Will anybody run fast? Will some of these draft stock rise with a good 40-yard dash, or maybe not, or maybe plummet due to a less than stellar draft combine. But combine still matters. Yeah, not every coach will be there. Though I heard Robert Saleh will be there, but I don't think Sean McVay's there. They're probably already mustering up 20 new plays for the Rams. I think the Rams finally got a first round pick this year, so Les Snead will be able to draft somebody on night one. So thanks for tuning in. Hopefully, fortunately, I don't think my 40-yard dash time would beat John Ross, but thanks for tuning in to the Big D's NFL Scouting Combine on the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page.